road is a lonely place for the warrior, for he trusts no one on the damnation alley he must call his home. Before I begin my customs, I generally have an idea in my mind. Exactly how I will achieve that goal sometimes is not known, and not every idea is a good one, but I believe my creative process in the end will help obtain the final result. Now, the road warrior would not want gunfire or anyone to enter so easily, so we're going to remove this back door. To make this job easier, we will use a tool called a jeweler's saw. Just start out slow, and once you get going, it's really easy to do. Once you have the door removed, you will need to clean the rough areas made by the saw. One tool to use are metal files, and they will give you the best control, and another tool to consider is a Dremel. Sometimes makes a job faster, but if you're not careful, could ruin your work. I prefer the files, but still use the Dremel for tougher jobs. As you can see, both tools work well together, and the combination will get the job completed. I want to remove this part and have it look like a normal bumper. To do this, I will use a hobby miter saw blade, and once the interior is installed, that will fill most of the gap. I drilled out holes in the front, and our warrior will defend himself with some machine guns, and our warrior really has no time to serve, so we're going to cut these off. I made some welded plates from strips of styrene. I beveled the edges to look like welds, and I also roughened the edges with some metal files, and using some super glue, I will attach them to the doors of the Kombi. To really give this custom a road warrior look, I added a battering ram he rated from a bone shaker. Here are the guns I added, and now I want to focus on the windows. I'm going to use the windows in the front, and I want to figure something out for the sides. Using some window screen repair kit, I will cut small sections to install in the side windows. In the future, I will try something called tulle. It's fabric used for under wedding dresses, and HO modelers use this for chain link fences. I did not remove the paint inside, so I had some difficulty installing it with super glue. It took some time, but I was able to get it done. The tulle would have been a better choice here. And I'm going to be scratch building a roof rack, and I'm using a product called styrene, which comes in many different shapes and sizes. Here I'm using rods, and I drilled holes in the roof and super glued them. I'm adding some strips, and I will glue them to the rods. While working, I had a thought of using basswood strips, but I'll save that for another custom. Here is the completed roof rack, and let's go on to the next step. To make some of our gear, we will use milliput, a 2-part putty, and once mixed will harden. Before it does, we will make bedrolls and backpacks. To make bedrolls, I will make a cigar shape and cut little bedrolls. To make the backpacks, I will make larger shapes and cut them to size. To give them a more realistic appearance, I will mold them together, having the gear form and hang in a more natural look. Here is the gear settled in the corner, and now I'm adding a black wall from the parts box. I plan to cover most of the gear with a tarp, and I'm cutting random shapes from styrene, and once covered it will look like gear. Using milliput again, I made a tarp, and I'm going to cover it, but leave some exposed. Using an X-Acto knife, I created wrinkles and folds, and another useful tool is a toothpick, and this will help to expose the gear. Another simple tool is your finger, and here you can see the rim being exposed. Here is a good look at the completed tarp, and once painted, this will be the focus point of the custom. This is left over from an HO project, and some of this will look great on the roof. Cutting off a small section, and our warrior will add it to his roof. These leftover bits, they should look good on there too, and using some super glue I will attach them. Using the same platform material, I cut a piece off, and this should complete the look of the back. And I also modified the window to use it in the front to preserve the look of the Kombi. While you watch me paint, let's talk about paint. What type of paint should you use? Well, the choice is yours. However, here I'm using cheap craft paints. I do own better paints, but they are expensive, and I choose how and when I use them. It really depends on how well I want something to come out. Craft paints are cheaply made, and you can achieve good results if used correctly. They are a bit thick, and if thinned and applied in layers, they can match up to some more expensive ones. For our next step, dry brushing, I have found that they work the best. In this case, a thick paint is better. So what is dry brushing? Well, basically you load a brush with paint and remove most of it and hit raise details. Normally a lighter color is used to pick out fine details. However, in this step, I'm applying it a bit differently. I'm using it to apply the color as if mostly worn away. The base color will show and look like built up dust and dirt. Combined with other techniques, it will all come together. When you begin to see what was an idea appear in front of you is when this hobby has its rewards. Using the same dry brushing technique, I'm applying black over the base coat, making sure to pick out the details like the teeth, adding a little detail by adding red to the eyes, and I wouldn't want to see this coming down the road at me, and finally going over it with some silver to give it the final look that I want. The next step is a technique called chipping. There are many methods, and here I'm using a scouring pad with some tweezers. This method can be quite effective and give a convincing look. You want to be random and apply in areas that it's most likely to occur. It is very easy to overdo it, and on small scales it's even harder. Sometimes I will admit I have gone overboard on this step. However, this time I believe I have not. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Adding a bit of silver to the engine, I will also use a wee bit of artistic license and add some color. This is a series that I will do in the future, and be sure to look for more Road Warriors. Thanks for watching, and a personal thanks to all my subscribers for supporting my channel. Not a subscriber? Please subscribe below and help support my channel. Make sure to tap the bell to be notified on all my uploads. Okay, see you in the next video.